God is my guy. I'm rolling with my ninja Jesus Christ. Satan can suck on my cock tonight. Some yellow nigga just burned my rice. Let's go, Jesus! God is my guy. I'm rolling with my ninja Jesus Christ. Satan can suck on my cock tonight. Some yellow nigga just burned my rice. Let's go, Jesus!
Because tomorrow is Easter and a lot of people often think about bunnies and chocolates around this time of year when they're not thinking about Jesus, I figured it would be a good idea to talk about the Chocolate Bunnies episode of VeggieTales, Rack, Shack, and Benny. And yes, I know there are currently 2 new episodes of the VeggieTales show. I will do a video on them next month, I promise. But yeah, as for now, let's talk about Rack, Shack, and Benny. This was the 4th episode of the original VeggieTales series. The story is based on Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and its setting is in a chocolate factory. And the lesson of the episode involves how to deal with peer pressure. At this time, this was one of the most complicated episodes to make, considering new locations and characters to animate, and it was considered a bit controversial when it came out, involving the original version of the now infamous Bunny song. But we'll get to that when we get to it. Let's begin. This is Rack, Shack, and Benny. The episode begins with Bob and Larry's Countertop intro segment, this time involving Larry wearing an oven mitt on his head because apparently it's the latest fad. Well, at least he's not eating detergent or licking toilet seats.
You've got an oven mitt on your head.
Oh yes, they're all the rage. Simply everyone is wearing them.
Really?
Well, all the cool people anyway.
He almost fell into a toaster back there.
Oh, Bob. Don't you read Veggie Beat magazine? This is the look. Without this oven mitt on my head, I just wouldn't be cool.
Larry ends up falling into the sink due to his lack of vision, as Bob engages into a story meant to warn the kids about peer pressure. We have a flashback to what we can only assume is Babylon, since that's where the original story took place. We're introduced to George, who we previously saw when we reviewed Toy That Saved Christmas. Here he's working as the guard of the Nebuchadnezzar chocolate factory. Get it? It's like the king from the original story who was called Nebuchadnezzar. We also see his right-hand man, Mr. Lunt, and Laura Carrot, who works as the factory's delivery person, along with the title characters Shaft, Sad Sack, and a Penny. They work a minimum wage job at the factory with a bunch of nameless peas, assembling chocolate bunnies. And they explain this all through a wonderful opening song.
Because we work real hard at the chocolate factory. We start at 8 and we don't get lunch till 3. We work the whole week through to make a buck or 2, so we can send them home to our families.
Mr. Nezzer then announces to all of his employees that they've done such a good job, they are now able to eat as many chocolate bunnies as they want. Yeah, it's a good thing this was made long before Larry Boy and the Bad Apple, because it was kind of established in that Larry has kind of a bad chocolate addiction. Stimpy then tells the other two that they shouldn't overindulge themselves just because everybody else is doing it.
I got some stuff you just gotta try. What is it? Pot. You know, marijuana. Oh, well, I don't know.
Everybody else is doing it.
Nezzer and Lunt then hop out to see everyone lying down on the ground with stomach aches, with Ren, Stump, and Bed being the only exception. So, happy with their integrity, Nezzer gives them a promotion and even gives them ties! Ah yes, wearing ties, the highest form of promotion. In their first business meeting together, Nezzer pitches a new idea that he's cooked up. A giant bunny statue everyone will bow down and worship, along with singing a certain song. And if you're a die-hard VeggieTales fan, and I assume most of you are, you know exactly what it is, the bunny song. Okay, so now let's finally talk about the controversy behind this episode, specifically with this song. The original version of this episode had a version of the bunny song that most parents found incredibly disrespectful. This criticism emerged when the first few copies of the episode were released.
I won't go to church, and I won't go to school.
So they had to redo the song for future releases.
I won't eat no beans, and I won't eat tofu.
And then for the first collection of Silly Songs video they then redid the song again to make it clean so that it's okay for you to sing along to.
Yeah, I'll go to church, and I'll go to school. That stuff is important, and I ain't no fool.
Anyway, the song depicts worshipping false idols, which the trio are clearly against, meant to be a variation of the original story where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego didn't want to worship Nebuchadnezzar's god. Instead, they refused to bow down and sing the bunny song, so instead they sing a song that their mother used to sing to them when they were young. Yeah, don't ask how an asparagus mother has an asparagus, tomato, and cucumber all as children. We probably don't want to know the answer. But Nezer doesn't take too kindly to this, so he has them tied up and ready to be thrown into the furnace, which again is pretty accurate to the original story. But no time for that. We have the silly song of the episode, The Dance of the Cucumber, a Mexican-themed song about Bob doing translation for Larry.
Why you always coming here to sell burritos? Blowing leaves, making noise on the streeto. Selling flowers on the side of Highway 32.
Back to the story, Laura comes to save the three from being thrown into the furnace of fire. After a chase scene, which rivals any Star Wars movie, Shadrach and Benny end up falling into the fire anyway. But as the story goes, they are saved by a higher power.
Well, it looks like 4 guys in there now, and one of them's real shiny. One more thing, boss. They ain't burning up.
So the three hop out completely unscathed, with Nezer now learning a lesson, and we end on a big band reprise of the Mother song.
Stand up, stand up.
For what you believe in, God.
He's the one to back you up.
And we end with Larry learning not to give in to peer pressure. Quarty gives them a quote from
Second, Cephalopians, Thessalians, Cephalopians.
and Bob ends up in the sink trying to get Larry out of there. True friendship right there, I got to say. And so that was Shadrach and Benny. All these years later, this episode still really holds up. For the 4th episode of the show, the animation still looks really good, even considering they had a relatively small crew to work with. Recreation of the original story was pretty good with that trademark VeggieTales charm. Most of the jokes were pretty good, and the songs were especially well done in this episode, especially with the fan favorite, the bunny song, when they redid it. Anyway, everybody, hope you have a good Easter, especially during these difficult, trying times, and may Jesus be with you.
Bob is really angry. I hope he doesn't catch me. It's so hard to run with the sombrero on my head.